just want to first thank everyone for joining our virtual roundtable meeting. We've been doing this for a little over a month now, and we've been definitely having some success in regards to trying to accomplish what the mission of CCIM is. Mission CCIM, which we've been saying consistently, is to elevate our members to the highest levels of success in the commercial real estate profession. And during these times of COVID, that's exactly what we've been trying to do through Zoom. Have the ability, all of us together. I believe in education, I believe in information, I believe in relationship, where we have the stay-at-home order. This is a wonderful time for us to get familiar with technology, so the things that we got to do in order to maintain our relationships and grow our relationship, which would ultimately grow our business. And so, to encourage everyone to go to the CCIM resource page if there's any questions in regards to PPP, anything having to date. It's been a wonderful for myself. That's a place to go to in case you have any questions, or if you have anything that you want to learn about, or any initiatives that are in pipe. And so, my name is Gary Martinez. I am the SoCal CCIM president. Our chapter covers everything from Orange County to Inland Empire. We have about 150 members, and we have a good group of sponsors.
Sure. So my name is Helen, and I'm a 2020 Cal chapter president this year. And can you hear me? It sounds like my internet connection may be stable today.
It's pretty good.
Okay, good. Our chapter has about 250 members, and we have about 18 to 20 people on our board right now. So it's a pretty big board, and we are really excited because our chapter actually covers from Sacramento to Bay Area all the way down to Silicon Valley, and now we get to partner with SoCal chapter CCIM, and definitely having a lot of fun doing these webinars.
That's great, definitely. There's definitely been relationships that have been formed, and so thank you for that. Just to kind of give everyone on the call an idea of what it's going to look like this morning, we're going to open the meeting for you now. And I have a quick discussion in regards to everyone who's on the call. It's an opportunity if you'd like to chime in, if you talk a little bit as to what's happening in your industry, in your line of work. Again, what we want to do is we want to try to make this as interactive as possible. So if you have a question, if there's something that you'd like to chime in on, just raise your hand and we will unmute you so you can speak. There we have some amazing panelists. We have Lisa, we have Nathan, and Michelle, all having to do with different sectors of the city. Kind of idea as to see and things that we're coming down the pipe. And a round of questions, closing remarks, and then we'll go ahead and close the meeting. So I think we'll just introduce your team.
Hi, good morning.
Sorry, Lisa. I meant Helen.
I guess. Okay, sure. Thank you so much. And so one is our leadership board, and we have Aziz Khatri. He's also on the call. He is our 2019 president, so we have president. And also we have Tim Tran. Tim Tran is our president-elect, as well as Tim Tukalski, CCIM. He is not only a CCIM, but he's also a CPA. So he's been doing great as our treasurer as well as secretary. And Teddy Swain is our technology officer. And as I mentioned, we have a pretty big board, so we couldn't put everybody on this list, but we have about 18 people total on our board right now.
Your sponsor, Helen?
Yeah, and again, without our sponsors, we definitely can't do what we are supposed to do. We typically, every year we put over 30+ plus events, again, across Sacramento, Bay Area, including Oakland and also Silicon Valley. So we're really, really proud to have these sponsors. Zanzibar San Filippo, they are our platinum sponsor. And we also have gold sponsor Heritage Bank of Commerce, Craigslist, Vanguard Financial, and Chase, as well as our silver sponsors, Business Finance Capital, as well as Chicago Deferred Exchange Company. Without them, we definitely wouldn't have been able to put together so many events for our members. And obviously, same as SoCal chapter, we're really focusing on providing education for our client, for our membership.
Wonderful. Thank you, Helen. And so in regards to our SoCal CCIM board, I just want to give recognition to the people that are behind the scenes in regards to putting all the information together and helping us with our events. And thank you so much for each of them. And each of them have been very inspirational and insightful in regards to our putting on our event. And I also want to introduce our sponsors, CoStar Group, ARCRE, Asheville Associates, Asset Preservation, Baker Law Group, Coast to Coast Escrow, Platinum Wealth Group, and Fidelity Bancorp. I've done business with all of our sponsors, and I can tell you all of them are amazing, and they've been a wonderful resource for myself. And they've been a big support and a big help for our chapter, and we encourage everyone who is looking for this type of service to reach out to our sponsors and support them just as they are supporting our chapter, because there's no way we could do what we do with our sponsors. So again, I want to thank our sponsors for everything that they do for our chapter. And so with that, we're going to go into a roundtable discussion and have this open up a little bit more in regards to kind of what's happening in the industry. And once we go from here, then we're going to get into our panelists. But this is just more of a time for those of us to talk a little bit more of what's happening in the industry. And again, it's a wonderful time to chime in and get make yourself known and create some awareness of your business and who you are, because again, that's a part of our goal here of the meeting. And so Helen, what's going on in your area in the neck of the woods? I mean, we've been having a lot of things happening, but it seems as if things are coming to at least some consistency at least. And so what are you seeing out there in your neck of the woods?
Definitely feel like a lot of people are getting a little bit impatient on this shelter in place. And right now, for my company, we specialize from residential all the way to multifamily. So we see a lot of proposals being made regarding rent increase freeze suspension all the way until December for City of San Jose. And then obviously the statewide right now is proposing to have a rent reduction by 25% across the board for residential properties. And I think right now everybody is obviously struggling. And the biggest question is that if there are so much relief for the tenants, how about the landlord? Because obviously they still have a lot of expenses. So that's been a big talk, especially for the apartment owners. I will let anyone else who in different industry, industrial office or retail in Northern California, if they want to speak on that, I'm more than welcome to unmute yourself and or raise your hands to talk about those industries.
Yeah, if anyone would like to chime in, please raise your hand. And while you're doing that, I'm going to send it over to John Baker. John, you've been instrumental in regards to giving us some inside information in regard to a legal aspect. Would you like to chime in as to anything that's new that's been happening in your world?
I would like to chime in if you don't mind, and it's not necessarily new, but I've been doing some research on whether landlords and tenants would have a defense for not making payments. And it's interesting. One of the California Civil Code Section 1511 says that the failure to perform is excused when such performance is prevented by operation of law, or when it's prevented by an irresistible superhuman cause. But the flip side of that is that in every contract there's good faith and fair dealing. So what the cases are saying basically is that there has to be an impossibility of doing or performing what you're supposed to do before you can claim that. If it's just more difficult or more expensive, then it's going to be challenging to claim that defense.
Understood. Thanks for that, John. Yeah, great deal. And I know you're on the line. You've been extremely busy with all this PPP stuff from a lender standpoint. Can you tell us what's been happening? We got a new round of funding, and what's happening? And thank you for joining today. I'm sure you're extremely busy, but what's going on with PPP, and what are you hearing from all the businesses out there?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. It's Greg Gill, SBA lender. So I am definitely seeing a lot of calls, a lot of emails, everything still with the PPP program. As Gary had just mentioned, the first $349 billion went pretty quickly, but unfortunately, I think the second $300 billion is going to go even more quickly. People are saying a couple days. It may be a few hours. I know most banks are not even accepting any new applications because they have such high demand, and they are definitely already have enough in the queue, and most of them are for their own clients. So these monies are going to go pretty fast. I think they're going to be trying to open up the EIDL, which is the disaster relief, as well. So that's something I've been telling everyone, just as many as you can, just be patient and think of this as a loan. So they do have it open up for sole proprietors, which obviously most commercial real estate brokers are. So there's a different calculation on how they're doing it. But yeah, it's definitely a brave new world out there with all of these changes. One thing to mention is that unless there's gonna be any changes right at the end here, the PPP program is going to be coupled with the SBA 7A program. So in theory, once those funds are gone within a number of hours or days, all the funds for SBA lending for the fiscal year, which ends in September, will be gone. So there's a very high likelihood that a certain percentage of SBA financing, which is the biggest percentage, the SBA 7A program, is not going to have any liquidity for, it could be through September, or it could be a month or two when Congress gets back to work and can address that and increase the funding. This happens every year or two, but it's closer to August or maybe September, and they either wait it out till October. But now, since they are tying these monies together, your escrows may get extended, and especially on the type of loans or type of transactions that have to have a 7A loan, which business acquisitions. A lot of commercial real estate have the 7A loan. You can also use the 504 transaction, but that's not always the best case or the safe case for these types. So be prepared for that. That's unfortunate news, especially for a lot of lenders out there. One more thing to mention is that I've heard a lot on the street that lenders in general have been pulling back on the reins and stopping lending specific types as well. Obviously, it'd be really tough to get a loan for a restaurant right now, but also construction financing, because of the cities and counties being closed, or being a lot more difficult to deal with during these times, maybe not allowing construction. So I think the word of the day is going to be patience and flexible. So definitely let your clients know that, let the sellers know that, let the buyers know that. So some of their escrows may be elongated here.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that, Greg. It's definitely been some trying times. And Earl, I think you have something to add to that.
Yeah, Earl Kuby from Fidelity Bancorp Funding. As Greg said, the industry is really busy right now with PPP loans. That's true. And it's also true that a lot of lenders have really slowed down and cut back. They really have. Still, there's some pretty good loans out there. Apartment buildings, industrial buildings, some office. Retail is really, really tough right now. But even on those property types where lenders are lending, it's common for them to raise their requirements by increasing debt coverage ratios, or making us prove that the tenants are actually paying their rent. Apartment buildings, It's not uncommon for a lender to do something like take a 5% vacancy factor and turn that into a 28.5% vacancy factor, and then calculate their loan from there. So there's a lot of different lenders responding in a lot of different ways to all of this. Those are still in the market, that is. And so our job to try to take a particular situation and see where it fits and see how we can fund it. There are private lenders out there, of course, who charge a higher interest rate. And some of them have all stopped lending. Those who are remaining are limiting loan amounts and raising requirements. Still, though, deals, there's a lot of deals still getting done. We think probably in the future, a lot of lenders are going to require more diligent and greater amounts of cash reserves going forward. So the next time something like this happens, there's less of this postponing of payments and skipping payments that's going on. That turns out to be a problem right now. So I think we can look forward to lenders imposing higher cash liquidity, post-closing liquidity requirements in the future. Till we're lending, we're looking for deals to do, and so would hope to be able to provide help to any situation where funding is in escrow. Okay, thanks very much.
All right, Earl, thank you so much. And then let's hear from one more, Bob Osbrink. You're the director of the Center of Real Estate for Cal State Fullerton. What are you telling your students? And I know students probably have some concerns right now, and how did they position themselves in this marketplace? Bob, what are you telling your students, and what are the students saying?
Let me know, first of all, can you hear me? You can hear me. Got a couple nods. Yes. Okay, good. Well, we've got some students on the call today. We've invited some, and so hopefully we've got pretty good attendance. We've got some calls going on this week, panel discussions with the students. The university's pretty much shut down, so everything's gone online. That's been carried into the fall. So from a real estate standpoint, I'm gathering as much information as I can for my call on Thursday with Lindsay Carboni, my assistant director. And we're going to talk with James St. Louis over there, who's the president. And we've got about 50 or 60 students now that are part of our real estate associates, and they get involved in our intern programs. Obviously, this is still very unsettling. I've been in the business quite a while and not quite seen. So it's a little hard to predict where it's going to roll out to still. Everybody wants to be optimistic. When you see things like the Irvine Company has now shut down the Fashion Island Hotel, as well as the Irvine Hotel, which puts about 1,100 Irvine Company employees to work. You know, that's concerning because clearly they've got the deepest pockets around. They're saying that the reason is to reconfigure the hotel seating and certain things to be cognizant of the social distancing. But, you know, there's a cash flow issue there too. So we are seeing, I'm hearing from a number of people that, as we just heard, there are still loans being done. They tend to be done in a very lower level price ranging. A lot of the higher finance, big tenant things, they're not quite getting done right now. And there's a standstill in a lot of the, at least from what I'm seeing, anything above 20 million, there's not a lot of velocity right now in deals being transacted at that level. There's a few, but not a lot. So that's what we're seeing with the students. The word is to me, there's a tremendous opportunity about ready to emerge coming into this next reconfiguration of commercial real estate. What that looks like, I'm working with a lot of people to try and figure out where some of these niches are. So that's what I'm seeing, Gary.
Let me ask you this: in these uncertain times, and I mean, technology, it really seems to be, taking a new path, and people are, regardless of your age, or everyone's just forced to use technology more. I mean, I remember when we started this off, I mean, we were talking to everyone about getting on Zoom, and we were coaching people through on how to use this platform. And I assume the students are very familiar and comfortable with technology. If a commercial real estate broker or an agent or a property manager wanted to utilize a student, I mean, how can someone work with a student or get in touch with a student for an internship? Or, I mean, is there an opportunity?
Absolutely. Reach out to the center. Our website is up. We've got, we're on LinkedIn, Cal State University Fullerton Center for Real Estate. So you can go to LinkedIn as well. We've placed in our intern program roughly, I think we're around up to close to 20 now. We've got about 40 in the queue that want to look at opportunities. We're interviewing them. So there is a lot of interest. And I do think you're right. It's funny. I asked the question to one of the students in the response about, how about technology? How are you doing with that? And they said, well, sir, can you turn on your television set? So it was it was funny. It worked well in the moment. So the fact of the matter is, where this is all going to go, students coming out of the university right now, they're going to be the best prepared. Somebody trying to play catch up it's a little tough, but yeah, thanks for mentioning that. The intern program, and by the way, Gary is one of our board members, so we're very happy to have CCIM represented on our board. We've got the most active intern program we know of in the business. So reach out to us through, like I said, either LinkedIn or our website, and we'll start talking to people. We're interviewing them every day. So I've got Lindsay Carboni on the call, I believe, today. So she's the assistant director who is kind of the front person for the program.
Wonderful. Well,
Sure.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for all your support you give also to CCIM. You've been very helpful for our chapter as well. So thank you so much. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get to our panelists to go ahead and get an idea as to who's on the call. I'm going to open up a poll question here just to get an idea as to what your profession is or what industry you're in. This is multiple choice, so you could pick more than one. Some people do residential and commercial. Some people do escrow and title. They may be an attorney along with a broker, or an accountant with a broker. So let us know who you are. And so this would help our panelists get a better understanding as to who our audience is. Thank you everyone for participating here. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this out in 5 seconds here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and share the results. All right, can everyone see that? All right, so we got 68% here that do commercial, 23% that sell residential properties, and we have a mixture of the others of lenders, property managers, escrow, title, and so. Well, good. Well, thank you for doing that, everyone. We'll have another poll question in a bit, and so. Just want to go ahead and get into our panelists. We felt as if, well, definitely unity. Unity is something that we all need to come together. And as we're working through our businesses and working with our clients, and we can't do business without working with municipalities and our local cities. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring in some different presenters or panelists to talk about as to what's happening in the city, and some opportunities that that may be out there that we're not aware of. And so, Lisa, I know you have a little presentation for us, so why don't we go ahead and start it off with you, and you can go ahead and share your screen. I know you have a couple of slides that you'd like to share with us.
Let's see, can everyone hear me?
There you go. We hear you now. Perfect.
Right. Well, good morning, everyone. And thank you, Gary and Helen, for inviting the City of Garden Grove to kind of highlight some of our resiliency efforts that's underway. So the presentation I'm providing is information that we recently shared and a plan that our City Council adopted and approved for implementation earlier this month for us to put in place an action plan of how to provide resources and tools to our business community that are impacted by COVID-19. So I'm going to walk through and highlight some of the action items that we have undertaken alongside some of the future implementation tasks that we are currently in the midst of. So back in April 14th, the City Council adopted our Business Resource and Resiliency Plan, and it's made up of 4 parts. And the first part is really actions, immediate actions undertaken by the city. So early on when the stay-at-home order was initiated back in mid-March, there were some action items that the city council had already implemented to mitigate some of the challenges as a result of COVID-19. I won't go through that in great detail, so I'll be happy to share the PowerPoint with the group today later on when this wraps up. The second part of our plan is essentially our economic development action in process. So this is where I'll focus the lion's share of my discussion. The third part is a comprehensive clearinghouse. So there are federal, state, county, and local resources for employer and employee. So essentially we set up a one-stop shop with for our businesses to be able to find these respective resources. And in closing, the fourth part of our plan focuses on business startup. At the end of the day, we do talk about resiliency and how do we transition to recovery mode, but typically in a recession, we see small businesses growing in our pipeline. And so we want to ensure that the resources are available to our business community. So on our website at the ggcity.org, when you launch into the city's webpage, you'll have obviously the first information tool available is up-to-date information as it relates to COVID-19. We also set up what we call a business portal, identified as a business resource toolkit. It's essentially the one-stop shop of all information relating to EIDL, PPP. I know Greg had talked a little bit about the status of the SBA funding that's underway, and it was interesting to hear that the aggressive this limited resources is going to be exhausted fairly quickly, and that's a challenge, especially for our small business community. And so any webinars and resources that are available, we post pretty regularly information for our business community on this business toolkit. We also developed what we call a COVID-19 business survey. At the end of the day, we're looking for feedback from our business community in terms of what level of resources would be most helpful for their needs. What particular sector of the commercial, manufacturing, industrial segment are they a part of? Are they in the process of furloughing staff? Are they in the midst of potentially closing permanently? Are they looking to reopen but in a different form of business operation? Are you aware of the federal and state resources that are currently available? Are you aware that the City of Garden Grove has resources currently available? So this was kind of an organic way for us to hear directly from our constituents. Number one, is the resources getting to you? Are you aware of it? Can we follow up with you if there's some information that you need assistance with? So it's a relatively short survey, about 10 questions, of which towards the conclusion of that, the respective businesses have the opportunity to reach out to our Office of Economic Development team, and we will be able to follow up as well. We also collaborated with SBA, SBDC, and Garden Grove and launched a business resource webinar. So essentially hit play and you can identify how to apply for a PPP and EIDL loan. Mike Daniel, the regional director for the Orange County Inland Empire Network, was able to provide resources about small business counseling, how to, if you need assistance with your respective lease negotiations, if you are unfamiliar with, if you have business interruption insurance and how that can apply. And so we wanted to extend this resource to our business community and know that they're available to them. I appreciate, I think some of the earlier discussions during the roundtable talked about, is City Hall open? The answer is yes, we are open via virtual platform. So in comparison to the volume of plan check and building inspections that we are currently undertaking, the volume is similar to the end of the year. So towards the holidays, typically in November and December, we see a 20% decline due to the holidays. So as a result of COVID-19, we're seeing that volume of activity at our virtual public counter. So what that provides for is we have now transitioned to a virtual building inspection platform. So to maintain the social distancing that is currently required, our building inspectors and working with our contractors and our property owner, we are affording a virtual inspection option. So whereby the contractor or the property owner via mobile device would be able to live stream a video of the area of work that's being inspected, and our building inspector will provide the ability to virtually approve milestones during the construction process and allow the project to proceed. So this has been tremendously helpful, especially with construction activity that are still ongoing in the city of Garden Grove. We average about 60 to 70 building inspections daily, and of that, about 35% is virtual at this point in time. Something that we have been pretty proactive in working with our businesses when there is a business closure of some sort, whether it's temporary and it's resulting in a layoff of a significant amount of employees, the city receives a notice called a WARN notice. And so it identifies where the business is located, the number of positions that have been ultimately impacted, whether it's a furlough, a permanent layoff, or a temporary layoff. What we have done in a proactive manner is we've reached out directly to these respective businesses, whether they're hoteliers or large manufacturing companies or retailers, and we provide the HR manager with direct resources from the city of Garden Grove. For those that are not aware, we not only handle the business outreach side in terms of making sure that business resources are available, we also support the Garden Grove employee and local residents approach. And so we do have funding that provides for rental assistance and to augment some of the impacts of a loss of a paycheck. So what we've done is we reached out directly and provided our respective businesses these tools that are available to support their respective employees that are also Garden Grove residents. So it's been, to date, we are tracking our job loss. So right now we're at approximately 11 notices that we have received today, and about a little under 1,400 job losses today in the city of Garden Grove. This doesn't necessarily include all the small businesses. I believe this type of notice is required when you reach a certain threshold in job loss. So that's something that has been a proactive position that the city of Garden Grove has taken to ensure that all Garden Grove residents are aware the resources are available to them as well. We are gearing up for a Plan C. So what is Plan A and Plan B? Plan A is PPP. Plan B is the EIDL loans. And so in the event that any of our small business community were unsuccessful in achieving approval and receiving these respective stimulus dollars, we have launched what we call a Garden Grove Jobs First Grant Program. It will launch next week. It will provide approximately $25,000 in grant dollars to augment payroll. And so 75% could be forgiven as a result when it's associated with payroll, and the remaining 25% of the grant would be forgiven for rent, for insurance, and utilities. The goal is to provide some sort of relief for our small business community over a 3-month period. So during the recovery period and at some point of transition towards resiliency, they're going to need some infusion of dollars to ensure some sort of higher probability of surviving. And so this is focused on job retention specifically. Out of the CARES Act, this is the third tranche of funds. Approximately additional funding was earmarked to our CDBG, a one-time allocation. So we received about $1.2 million to our one-time CDBG allocation, and additional $600,000 via emergency solution grants. Typically it's focused on homelessness prevention And via that funding, we're providing, that's where our rental assistance program is derived from. So from the $1.2 million, we've earmarked about $830,000 to fund our SBA Jobs First program at max. So if we disperse $25,000, we anticipate assisting 37 businesses, but the likelihood of smaller businesses in the range of 10 to 15,000, our hope is we would at least fund approximately 50 small businesses in the city of Garden Grove.
Wow, very, very, very good, Lisa. That's great.
Yeah. And next, a portion of our CDBG funds, we always, you know, federal dollars has a lot of strings attached. There's a lot of conditions and restrictions, and I am really proud to share that I have a really dynamic Office of Economic Development that have a creative mindset to really leverage our dollars. So a portion of our CDBG funds, approximately $40,000, would be earmarked over a 6-month period to fund meals for families bi-weekly. So what that means is we will be contracting directly with our local Garden Grove restaurants to produce anywhere between 50 to 100 family meals bi-weekly that we would be augmented and funded through our program. And then it would feed our most vulnerable population in our low-income areas. So it provides a resource to ensure that families impacted by COVID-19 have meals. It leverages our relationships with local Garden Grove restaurants to provide those meals, and it leverages federal dollars to fund the implementation of the program. So we have approximately 2 family resource centers in the city of Garden Grove, and through our Parks and Rec department, they will be coordinating distribution of these meals to our families.
Lisa, I think sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of concludes, gives you a preview of some of the programs that we are working on at a local level. It's very targeted, it's very specific, it's aimed to bridge kind of a shortfall where our small business may not win the lucky lottery ticket to get the EIDL advance loan of $10,000. They are not able to qualify or able to receive the PPP loan. So we felt the priorities to help our small business sustain at least for 3 months during the beginnings of recovery was a priority. So that's all I have.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much. And what I wanted to say is we do have a lot of things that probably came up, and probably a couple of questions that came up, from our participants. And so just want to encourage, if anyone has any questions for Lisa, for Nathan, or for Michelle, go ahead and use the Q&A section, and we will get to you and get your questions answered. And so we're all here to help everyone. And so, Lisa, I know you had that presentation already kind of geared up, and so thank you for presenting that very much. And so that was awesome. All right, Nathan, why don't we go to you? Nathan, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us who you are and then what it is that you do? You have a big role.
Thanks. Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. My name is Nathan Donato Weinstein. I work for San Jose's Economic Development Office. And I am normally just, an analyst in the department. San Jose is really tends to have a reputation as being a little more business welcoming than some of our neighbors in the Bay Area. And that's because San Jose is pretty rare for cities our size, and that we don't really have the robust jobs or tax base you would kind of expect as the largest city in the Bay Area. But since March 16th, I've been involved with our Emergency Operations Center as part of our business response unit. Remember, Santa Clara County went into shelter in place at midnight, March 16th, or I guess that would be March 17th, as part of the 6-county Bay Area consortium that did the first in the nation stay-at-home orders. And the business response team was set up to make sure to really just kind of be the front door for business of all sizes that needed to interface with the city in terms of resources or just general information. And to help make them aware of the resources that were coming online and that continue to come online out there, as well as answer questions about kind of compliance with the public health order. And so a key element of this is servicing business owners in the city who don't necessarily speak English. And because it's clear, right, not everybody reads the news, not everybody reads the news in English. And so we've really made multilingual staff a big part of this. San Jose has the largest population of Vietnamese people outside of, you know, a major city outside of Vietnam, for one thing, as well as, you know, many other languages. And so some quick facts on San Jose businesses. We have 55,000 small businesses in San Jose. More than half of those are immigrant owned. And 60% of them are owned by business owners of color. There's also more than, in addition to that, right, on top of that, there's more than 30,000 sole proprietorships who have their own unique needs around business support during this time. And together, all of these businesses generate about 43% of all of the city's employment. So our focus has been more, you know, during this time on the kind of the small business world, because those are the folks that tend to just need more help. Obviously, we are also working closely with our large businesses, which in many ways are kind of better positioned to actually like help us. So I just wanted to spend a little bit of time to I don't have like a super fancy presentation, but I wanted to give a little behind the scenes on kind of what's going on and what we're seeing. And so I am going to share my screen and show you something that our budget director showed our city council recently, because it really kind of gets at what we're expecting to kind of hit us out of this from a budget perspective. So just drawing your attention down to sort of the bottom, what are we expecting as a hit to the city is during the current year, which, you know, ends in June, we need to kind of cut or make up for about $45 million in revenue declines that we were not expecting. And so that's a lot in San Jose where every dollar counts. And that's just for like the current fiscal year. Our general fund is about $1.3 billion, but keep in mind, San Jose is the most thinly staffed big city in America. And so that doesn't even get us sort of into 2020, 2021, the following fiscal year, where we're anticipating a revenue decline of about $65 million. And I thought it was, you know, the percentage drop there is really interesting when you compare it to our previous economic crises, that it's just sort of orders of magnitude larger. And so obviously as a city, we're really paying attention to some of the conversation in Washington about, you know, the fiscal support potentially for municipalities and counties and states, and sort of what happens with that. So most of this is coming from our hit to our sales tax, right? And our retail stores are closed. Our business to business sales tax, which is a big percentage, is, you know, pretty much on ice right now. And so that's really where it's coming from, as well as our TOT, our hotel tax. So we're sort of modeling a hotel occupancy rate of 15%, and that might be overly optimistic for the next few months. And then like a long climb out of that hole. And this is a market where the hotel market was going gangbusters, right? On that kind of Sunday through Thursday business travel customer for, you know, the past couple of years. So that is a little bit of, you know, what we're expecting as a city. I also wanted to share, this is an interesting chart we get every week that shows our unemployment insurance claims just for our workforce development area. So sort of think of it like our metro area, where you saw just this huge spike. This is sort of as of Thursday, a week behind for each data point. And what we saw was, this huge spike that has started to sort of come down a little bit on, for our weekly unemployment insurance claims, but it's still massive and sort of unprecedented. And I think, today is a really interesting date because this is the day when the state is supposed to go live with their sort of unemployment insurance for gig, like independent contractors and gig workers, and business owners who historically have not been allowed into that, into that system. The CARES Act provided money for states to stand up these additional unemployment insurance capabilities. And so our expectation is that this, this graph is going to go up again starting this week. So that is sort of the scary stuff. So some of the initial sort of takeaways that we've seen from watching these numbers come in is that when it comes to layoffs, the initial wave was really all about the service sector. So those businesses that sort of depend on, walk-in customer traffic or events that had, that business just went on ice instantly. To a certain extent, though, right, tech is a little more insulated, and San Jose is, a part of the, this tech. We call ourselves, right, the capital of Silicon Valley, but we're starting to see tech get affected. And there was a story in the Business Journal yesterday on one of our really, really hot unicorn tech companies that's doing layoffs. There's been some news around, the advertising market starting to hit some of the big social media and search folks. So we do not have an expectation that we'll be sort of, walled off from the larger trends. But we are lucky to some extent that a large number of our residents can actually work from home, unlike some metro areas where your employment portfolio is like way more weighted toward the service sector. And then we are also seeing healthcare start to get whacked. And I think that's concerning because people don't realize, even in Silicon Valley, just how huge healthcare is. And just yesterday, there was news about 14,000 Stanford healthcare workers getting, hit with furloughs and pay cuts. And there's some interesting reasons why. So the other thing to keep in mind is the immediate and severe impact on the service sector does mean that those lower income communities and immigrant communities who have less of a financial cushion are hit hardest. And there's less available to them, especially when you look at kind of the undocumented communities. So that's all kind of stuff we're really keeping in mind when we're thinking about the types of resources and support that people need. So anyway, to kind of wrap up, and then I thought maybe we could talk about some of our expectations for going forward. Some of the things we've been doing in our business response team is, a lot of what Lisa talked about is total best practices. We've been trying to reach every business in San Jose to inform them about really our first line of defense, which are those federal loan programs, which have, not had the smoothest of rollouts, but they're still our biggest tool in the toolbox. As well as let them know about important policy changes that the city and the county has done to sort of support businesses and residents. We've been doing that through first time we've ever activated our business tax database to do announcements with those contacts and contact informations that we have, as well as kind of using our real estate community as a vector to get information out. I mean, we've been so thankful that a lot of our brokers have been willing to sort of take our, our flyers and our stuff and get that information out to their clients, especially on the, really on both the tenant rep and the landlord rep side. It's been awesome. It's been kind of an amazing story on that front. Folks are just super willing to help us. The webinars are really important. The rapid response work from our workforce development arm is critical. Sometimes if you don't get in there and let these employers know that, hey, it's really important that you hook your workers up with our team or inform them about unemployment insurance. If you don't do that, a lot of workers won't get into that system. And then also pitch some of the programs that the state has to reduce layoffs, like WorkShare, which a lot of companies don't know about. And then also we stood up a hotline and a dedicated multilingual email address for business. And also launched sort of our website is kind of fun. It's called Silicon Valley Strong. And let me go to it quickly. Here it is. So like, this is where we're posting a lot of our stuff. But it's, it's not just about business support. It's also like, hey, because this is important for business owners as well, right? Is where can people get free food? Where can their workers get, information on rent help, or, policies that are important to them. So, that whole idea of a one-stop shop is something that's, I think, is really important right now. So anyway, with that, I thought it would probably be more fun to just have a conversation or kind of talk through some questions. Helen had some really interesting ones that I want to kind of hear more about from other people. But anyway, I'll stop talking now.
Gary, I think you're muted. Are you?
Oh, yep. Sorry. There you go. Better. Okay. Just want to do one more introduction. Michelle, you're the chair of the Planning Commission for the City of La Habra. Just if you tell us briefly as to what's La Habra doing, what you're doing, and what's going on in the city. Michelle.
Hi, Gary.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you good.
Okay. We're actually going forward with projects right now. I've done 3 meetings since this has all started, and we have really good feedback from our business community. They're really excited to keep going. They're hopeful that things will get better. They're hopeful that things will turn around. We had 3 projects that went last night, and all 3 owners were super excited about just continuing to help the city and be a part. So that's been really great seeing that. And the other part that we have going on is we're looking at, like Garden Grove said, how we're going to use the COVID emergency money. We definitely will probably be using it for rent also. So, and then San Jose, all the stuff that they're talking about with businesses and communities, we're all in the same boat, clearly. The things that I am doing personally as a planning commissioner, I've jumped right into Meals on Wheels and helping with food distribution in our community. It is actually doubled and almost tripled because we're a small city, and we're also a lower income community. So this is something I've chosen to pick up, and the numbers are just amazing. It's just amazing. But I think as a planning commissioner, it's been really neat seeing all these projects still going forward, and the city wrapping around and hopefully helping, and we're reaching out to businesses also.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Michelle. That's wonderful information, and thank you for jumping on so quickly. I know we just barely talked yesterday, and thank you so much for getting on.
No problem.
Helen, go ahead. I know there's some Q&As questions.
Yeah.
There. Do you want to take those?
Exactly. Yeah. Sure. So we have Marty Lufton who asked a question for Nathan. What is the status of the various major development projects for downtown San Jose? It's all on hold. What is the long-term view with all that has occurred things? And in addition, I want to mention that obviously San Jose had one of the most major Google campus was going to be developed over there, and although it is a long-term project. So I was also curious about this question as well.
Yeah, no, that's totally the question on everyone's mind. So, in downtown, pretty much every project, commercial and residential, has now gone on pause or is sort of working its way to go on pause, because you can't just stop construction like right away in its tracks. Obviously, as we know, it takes time to do that safely. And I think, that's where there was a lot of confusion early on. So remember, we've had 2 public health orders. The first one said residential construction of all kinds is okay to continue. And then the second one, so that was March 16th. But everything else had to stop, right? Unless it was, medical. Now what's happened is a new health order on March 31st that came out and said that only affordable housing projects can move forward. And so, it was a little bit of a switch and I think it took a lot of folks by surprise, but anyway, so essentially everything has had to go on pause. It's been, it's been really hard for those developers and those contractors. I think what we're kind of wondering about is what is the next public health order look like, which was announced yesterday that there would be a new one be coming out this week and that some things would change. And, there's been a lot of talk, publicly from our elected officials and from some of the building trades about, working to get construction going again under, safe conditions. And so I think, that's kind of going to be the piece to watch. Google is continuing. So the planning process for Google is, really robust. It can, it's taking place virtually. The, meetings will, continue and everything. I think there is an expectation that just because of, the timeline might start to shift. We were supposed to have that project, move towards an approval decision late this year. And I think it's going to slip a little bit. And I think that's been announced. So, but, Google continues to move forward. The nice thing, and I'm wondering if other people are hearing this too, like we actually have folks that are kind of raring to go on stuff as soon as they can, kind of across the board. And so, which is good because we were really concerned that the investment was going to dry up and it was just everything was going to, our developers were going to ghost us. And that hasn't happened yet. But we're watching it closely. We're staying in touch with folks and trying to understand what they're hearing. But I mean, so far I feel pretty optimistic about our pipeline kind of continuing, at least so far.
That's great. Awesome. I saw that, Greg, you have a question, but let me, I think this is more to other CRE brokers. So I know, Nathan, you probably have to jump off in about 10, 15 minutes, correct? So I'm gonna continue with the Q&A, with everyone first, with panelists first. So one of the questions we have for you guys is that, what's the new normal you see? It seems like a lot of city council meetings we see that right now is doing virtually. And last time, maybe 3 weeks ago, I attended one. It went from 1:30 all the way to midnight because there were just so many people on the call, and I was too. So do you see that a lot of these city council meetings is going to continue to be virtual on going forward? And also, Lisa, you had mentioned that even inspections are doing virtually now.
I think it's just best practices. I think just to maintain social distancing and until some sort of vaccine is developed for COVID-19, there are the realities of just maintaining a new normal is evolving every day. I think business still needs to continue. You still need to negotiate your lease. You still need to go through the city's entitlement process to bring your affordable housing project or your medical office development or retooling and upgrading your tenant improvements to a shopping center. That still needs to continue. You'll need the process through the city's entitlement process to be able to work with you. So for us to wait until things go back to normal, that's not going to happen. But how can we adapt to allow you, the investors, the development community, have the confidence level to know that your timeline to invest your dollars in your respective jurisdiction is not, can be accommodated. And so that's how we look at it. We don't look at it as if we go from virtual to a face-to-face discussion. We look at what is your project needs and how do we make sure that you don't you don't regret your decision to invest in that local jurisdiction because your project has been on hold for a period of time when you're prepared to, you know, move dirt. So that's the approach that we've been taking, is to ensure that high level of customer service delivery, whether it's virtual or whether it's at some point in time where we're with our social distancing best practices in place and we're able to sit down at a discussion, we're open for business. And I think that's what part of your earlier comment, Helen, about everyone is feeling kind of a little bit of, you know, they're ready to go back to some level of normality, and they're ready to return to work and shift back to some level of normalcy. And so that's kind of where our focus has been, is to just make sure that we continue to deliver the services to our constituents.
Great.
I have a question related to that. Will we see maybe development standards change a little bit in regards to ventilation or more open space? I mean, is that something that is potentially down the pipe that developers need to be concerned about, or just be mindful of?
You know, I haven't heard, but interestingly, the building code upgrades or changes every 3 years. So we just went through the last cycle, and it's been deployed in, I believe, 2019. So I think the impacts of COVID-19 will have some additional discussions in all platforms. I'm not sure to what degree, but I think I can certainly touch base with my building official and see what the chatter has been with his counterparts to see if there's any shift. I think the reality too is we have to look to the investor side and the construction side and to see what initial redesign with office space can be accommodated to be able to maintain the level of social distancing. I'm not sure if the open platform of workspace is necessary at this point in time, or maybe there's a little bit of shift of some sort of temporary barrier or to allow for maintaining that social distancing as well. But those are great questions, and I don't have all the answers for that right now, but we'll keep you posted if there's any changes on the horizon.
Yeah, we're going to do a quick poll right here, and I'm kind of curious to see what everyone's belief is in regards to the recovery of California. I think this is an interesting question. Is this a V shape? Is it a U shape? Or are we going to see a W? Or are we going to see an L where it just drops and we're going to stay at the bottom like forever?
Gary, is this a national question? Is this about like California?
This is California. California in the house here. Yeah. So see people still answering here, and so things are all over the board.
It's very interesting because in the beginning, when it first started, everybody was talking about V shape, and then as the time goes, and then people started talking about U shape. Now this week, everybody's talking about W shape.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. I mean, it's definitely interesting. If we look at the stock market, I mean, it's been bouncing all over the place. And so
and let's hope not go to L shape next week.
No, we don't want L shape for sure. And so, okay, I'm gonna close this out at 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna go ahead and share the results here. All right. So most people think it's gonna be W shape with the U shape with very little V and L. So thank you everyone for participating on that. And so. I have another question here for you guys. Now, this is a big concern, I think, for, in California. I mean, before all of this, we definitely had a housing crisis, and with unemployment expected to rise, is the belief and the talks are, that there's going to be a higher increase in homelessness of individuals and families. Are cities preparing themselves for additional homelessness coming to their city, and if they are preparing themselves, what are they doing? How are they helping out their community and combating that?
I'll just briefly say that we all, every city in California has been struggling with this kind of for a long time. What's been really cool to see is that our our housing and real estate departments have really acted super quickly, like unprecedentedly quickly, to acquire control of some properties and house people under emergency conditions, and are actively looking to, to buy properties, to buy hotels in particular, like kind of motel style hotels, to get people into them like right now, like yesterday. And I haven't, that's not been the type of timing that cities have been working under until now. So we've housed, a couple hundred already, homeless individuals. There's obviously, San Jose has thousands of homeless people on the streets, but our staff is moving quickly to get people sheltered right now. I think the medium term and long term outlook is really uncertain, and is really concerning. And it may be that this crisis forces all of us in every city to kind of do things differently and make those decisions that previously would have taken 4 years or something, and get things done like right away.
Yeah, in addition to that question was that I know the city of San Jose the state of California had contracted with Motel 6 throughout the state to house these homelessness issue. And one of the biggest question is like, okay, what will happen after this shelter in place lifted, right? Where are you going to place? Put them back onto the street or what?
I know.
And during this shelter in place, who is monitoring them to make sure that they are really, inside their room and not going out? So yeah, these are some of the questions people have.
Well,
I'm not an expert on that, but I just want to say one of those Motel 6s is down the street from me. And I was on next door, like jumping in on all the people freaking out saying, I live down the street and I welcome this. So I did my part.
I think something to know, homelessness has not just been an issue as a result of the COVID pandemic.
Right.
It's been an ongoing issue in the state of California for the last few years. And I think cities and counties have been taking a regional approach to address homelessness. In response to your question, I think when an individual has been diagnosed with a positive case of COVID-19, they are placed in a facility such as a motel to manage the containment so it doesn't continue to spread. And typically when a facility such as that is being coordinated, there are wraparound services that are provided to the homelessness population. So it's not just, I'm gonna give you a voucher for a motel and you stay there for 30 days and after that you're on your own. I believe there are wraparound services that's provided through the county and other services that try to assist them from kind of this point in time where they're homeless or they're on the verge of being homeless to some sort of temporary shelter, which is what the motel could potentially be. Then with the wraparound services, hopefully we can, for Garden Grove, we have our Emergency Solutions Grant. We work with one of our nonprofits that we fund to provide them food, clothing, and shelter for a longer period of time. So we may end up subsidizing that rent for a family that has been homeless in the last 30 days. We provide for that rental for that period of time. And they also, during that wraparound services that's being provided, they are given workforce training and all these other services in hopes that in the 6 months that the resources are provided to them, they'll be back on their feet and in some level of permanent housing, which is permanent supportive housing. So it's kind of scary because it's not uncharted territory. It's just we've layered the resources that have already been available statewide, and now it's just addressing those individuals, whether you're homeless or not, that have been impacted by COVID-19, that don't necessarily have the luxury of having their own home to be able to go to. So that's kind of, I think it's part of the public health management of this pandemic. So that's what I've learned. Sometimes homelessness, when I joined Garden Grove 4 years ago, it wasn't in my wheelhouse, but over the course of time, as I'm learning, there are resources available for our population, those that want it. And And for those that do want those services, that's what we're providing. But we are in discussions with the county. I think there is a need to, and just to speak about what Nathan has spoken about, there are desires by developers and affordable housing interests to acquire motels and convert them to permanent supportive housing, whereby you're providing a permanent resident for our homeless population that's going to transition hopefully to back to some level of permanent resident. So that's kind of the discussions that I've seen. But that's just one of a whole load of tons of stuff that's floating out there, and that's the new norm.
Yeah, and actually, this is probably a great timing to really utilize these motels. Was probably down 95% to maybe even 100% of occupancy, and then have it changed to use for these housing these homeless people. So I think it's exciting in a way that we might be finding some kind of solutions right now. Another question I have, actually, one of the questions I really wanted to ask for different cities is, there are a lot of proposals, bills that are helping tenants, residential tenants especially, and then also small business owners. They obviously have the federal loans of PPP that provide for them. A lot of my clients, they are small investors, real estate investors. They maybe just started off to buy some of these small multifamily as a landlord. And they seem to feel like they are thrown into this hole where, hey, everyone else is getting some kind of help, but we are stuck. We are not getting any help. And as you know, the cap rate in California is already really low. So they're barely making the mortgage payment. So what would you recommend them to do, or what kind of resources you would provide them so that they can be relieved somewhat in terms of financially, so they don't feel the burden as much?
That's an interesting dynamic, because I've heard from multiple investors. Some have been in a probably more conservative approach, so they have the reserves available for them. I think no different than it's a business. In addition to being a landlord, you need to work with your lender, which is rule of thumb, go to your lender and ask for some additional deferrals until this pandemic period transitions, whether it's your deferral of mortgage or your debt service over a period of time. I think that's something that you may want to think about. Through the city of Garden Grove, we have a housing authority in which we provide approximately 2,400 Section 8 vouchers. And so you may want to work with your local housing authority to see if your particular unit could be inspected and accommodate one of our rental units for our respective low-income families that are in need of a rental unit, where a portion of your rental could be augmented by government vouchers. So that's one option as well. I think in this time where interior inspections are not permitted, so I think when we reach recovery, you may want to transition to that. You're looking for cash flow and some level of sustainability. So those are some of my initial reactions, just off the top of my head. But they are a business, and they should consider applying for PPP, and because they themselves have employees and individuals.
Usually a lot of these small business, landlords, they don't have employees, and that's the problem. They cannot apply for PPP.
I have gotten several calls from small apartment owners who said, hey, none of my tenants have paid rent this month. And by the way, the county did, and the city have endorsed, an eviction moratorium through the end of May. And so they're kind of asking what's available for me. And so, we do have a legislative affairs group, and we've asked them to, advocate for, small property owners to kind of be included in some of the federal programs that have been coming out. I don't know that we know what that would look like, but they're small businesses too, We have had some conversations with property owners to encourage them to look at the EIDL program, which is, I think, available. I've read some articles about EIDL potentially being attractive to small real estate owners. I have not yet talked with any owner who has, done it, but that might, be something to look at. And then the other thing that, I think is the city doesn't have any control over, but that's a really interesting question, is the whole property tax issue, and sort of, is that going to be looked at in the state in terms of relief for property owners? And so far the answer has been no. And I have no official position on that, but I think that's, I've gotten a lot of calls about that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was one of the biggest question, is like, so how about property tax? How about my mortgage payment? How about, like, they still have to pay for maintenance. So yeah, thank you so much. I think these are good resources, and that's also our jobs as brokers to educate our clients when, this difficult time comes. Gary, I thought I saw you were talking, but you were muted. Did you have a question?
No. Actually, what I was going to ask, and then this will be, I guess, the last question. Just looking at the time, and it's amazing how quickly time goes when we're having fun. And so, what's something maybe that the city's learned? I mean, is there something positive and that the city has learned, some new outcomes that the cities are taking away from this? I mean, naturally, each of you are in the inside. I mean, what are some things that we could expect in the future that that's here to stay, or some changes down the pipe that we should be excited about?
I think what we've learned is telecommuting where function can be accommodated and can't. So, about 30% of our city hall is telecommuting. And so that has been an eye-opener to identify areas where you can streamline and continue to perform and provide the level of service that you want to achieve. I think best practices and just sharing ideas, this platform and networking with peers has been tremendously helpful. I also have a similar network with our planning directors in Orange County, where with each new executive order or health directive, this is uncharted territory, and we're all just sharing our ideas and hoping something would stick. And I think we're also, what I find, I'm very proud of my building and planning staff, is that we are launching virtual and online plan check that was envisioned to be deployed a year from now. We deployed it in 3 weeks. So to go virtual inspection, we're gonna do online plan check. We're gonna make sure that we're taking advantage of innovation and technology at our city hall that would have otherwise not seen that level of momentum had it not been for this situation. I'm extremely proud of us being able to really try to fast track that and provide options to our constituents. That's kind of what I'm pretty excited about.
Great. Nathan, you have any closing remarks?
I would just say number one, I agree with Lisa. It's going to accelerate some trends that are probably positive, like getting cities into the 21st century as far as plan check and review goes. They're also, don't forget during the Great Recession, there were also some interesting, disruption to business can create new opportunities and new sort of interesting businesses, and kind of look at what came out of the last recession and what grew out of that is really fascinating. And let's not forget who is based in downtown San Jose is Zoom. We're super proud of our Zoom, and who knows, maybe they'll take over the world after this, right? So I'll kind of think positively about some of those potential business trends that could accelerate in a good way.
Definitely.
That's great. I bought some Zoom stock about a little over a month ago, and I've been happy with it.
Michelle, do you have anything to say about? Yeah.
I do. I'm really proud of our city too about streamlining our council meetings and our commission meetings. online. That has been, we've had a few kinks, and some of the meetings have been interesting, and some have gone really well, and we've got business done, so that's been great. I think business itself in the community has changed. I've been a business leader in our community for several years, and it's neat the innovation of artists and business owners, changing their business to where they're still in-house working in their business, but they're doing everything online. Like, for example, we have a gentleman, his kids rock, he's a drummer, he teaches drumming. So he stays in his studio, drums, and he has been doing 250 classes a week, which is amazing. That's just great. So it's really neat to see that change. Plus, these kids need an outlet. The parents are excited they can keep doing their thing and being creative. And, it's built up a crazy community, and they've grown. They've actually grown by like 30%. So that's been really, really interesting to see. It's really creative.
Yeah, can emphasize enough, like, for anyone who wants to be successful, they have to be able to adapt, right? And that's,
oh, absolutely.
And not everyone has that kind of skill set. So really proud that all the cities we have right now taking the leadership to adapt to this new environment.
And one thing that I'm hearing consistently is that we are on a road to recovery, and we're doing some things here that are amazing, and some new things are being innovated at this time. And so it's a perfect time to launch our next polling question. And you could pick multiple choices here. What industries will recover first? Are we the airline industry, the casinos, the gyms? What's going to recover first? Yeah, and we definitely have some industries that have been hit pretty hard here, and there's a lot of it. I think a lot of us are eager to go back to. I mean, personally myself, I miss the gym, and I'm eating too many tortillas here in my house. So, all right, I'll go ahead and close this out right here in a couple of seconds. Please get your votes in. This will be interesting. Okay, ready? In 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna go ahead and end the polling and share the results. All right, restaurants, number 1. From there, we have gyms, and everything else is kind of scattered all over the place. So thank you, everyone, for participating in that. And so, well, just wanted to thank Lisa, thank Nathan, thank you, Michelle, so much for your time and for everything that you provided here today. And it's been very insightful. We definitely need our cities to work closer. We all need to work together and unite. And again, the more we're united, the better off we're all going to be. And so, going to go ahead and just close everything off here. And go ahead, Helen.
Oh, sorry. I just want to see if I know Greg still has this one question we haven't answered. Maybe I can ask real quick, is that he's asking, what kind of value change are you seeing in property values? I've had an appraiser say that they are anticipating anywhere from 5 to 15% off the bat. Also, what percentage of transactions are you seeing in negotiations? And are sellers willing to reduce prices to keep buyers who may otherwise pull out of the purchase? So if anyone have your feedback, feel free to answer or type your answer on the Q&A box.
Yeah, and another thing also, just to add on top of that while people are typing, feel free to use the chat here. I mean, we've heard a lot of things here, and so feel free to use the chat. I've seen a few people there put their name and their phone number, their contact information. I mean, this is still a platform on how we could get connected and do business. And so if there's anything here that you heard that where you could be of assistance of, or you need some help with, throw your information there in the chat, and let's do some business here. And so, but to go ahead and take Greg's question, and so basically the way I've been approaching it really depends if I'm representing buyer or seller. But what I really try to do is try to find as much information as I possibly can in regards to the other side, and how does our property sit within the marketplace. For example, we have a property that that we're about to put into escrow in the city of Anaheim, which is a smaller industrial building with some dock high doors. And so you cannot find any properties in Anaheim or really in Orange County that has, that's a 10,000 square foot building with a dock high door. It really doesn't exist. And so because of the scarcity that's out there, we're not dropping our price on the property at all. And we have multiple offers on it, versus, an office building that we're about to put up on the market. It's multi-tenant office building. We're definitely going to see that we're going to have to give some concessions there if we want to at least sell it, because no one's paying the premium price for what it is. So I think overall there is no formula that you could apply to it, 5%, 10%. I think it's all situational. And it's really important for whoever's representing the buyer or broker to really understand as much as they can in regards to the other side and how does that property fit within the marketplace. Are there other options out there, or is this the only game in town? So it really depends. But I do see prices going down as a whole. I think as brokers, we got to do what we can to try to minimize values going down. And how we do that is by working with our tenants and making sure that we're doing what we can to keep them, because again, prices are generated off of the net income of the property. And so there's other factors, of course, but net income is the biggest driver. And so, all right. Anyone else? All right. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and close this out here. Just wanted to share some information in regards to our chapters. We have a reciprocal chapter membership. And so if you are a NorCal chapter member and you'd like to participate and become a member of SoCal, we have a reciprocal chapter agreement, which is only $25 and vice versa. If you are a SoCal chapter and if you'd like to become a NorCal chapter member, then reciprocal agreement is only $25. It makes it really easy and really simple for us to stay connected as we're going through all this here. And it'd be amazing to meet everyone in person at some point in time when we're able to get back into a new normal environment.
We'll find a middle location in California, and everyone from SoCal all the way to, NorCal, Sacramento, everybody meet there with big networking events.
There you go. Napa Valley sounds good to me. All right, so with that, just want to go ahead and close this out. This is a little quote that I pulled here from The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, one of my favorites. He says, "Consistency. I've learned over the years that when it comes to success, consistency is key. Consistent hard work that we may not like doing today, but for a payoff, we'll love it tomorrow. Earn it and enjoy it." Mr. Dwayne Johnson. And so it's a good reminder, as we're here at home, we may have to do some cold calling and do some things that we don't like, but continue being consistent, doing the things that you got to do for the payoff for tomorrow. And so with that, Helen, thank you so much. Lisa, Nathan, Michelle, thank you so much for your time, and everyone who participated on this call. Let's all stay connected here, and everyone have a wonderful day, and we'll see everyone soon.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Gary.
All right, everyone. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. All righty. Bye-bye.